Let me tell you about how I became a Taylor Swift fan. It was Christmas 2012, and my brother and his then wife had sent my daughter, who was about 9 or 10 at the time, a gift. It was a box, and it was a box within a box, and then it was, a wrapped present within tape and all sorts of things. Bubble wrap might have been there, I can't quite recall. It was a while ago. And I was living in Edmonton, and so we were on Skype. We were pretty sure it was Skype at the time, I can't remember. It may even have been MSN, it was that long ago. And my daughter was getting more and more excited, because what could possibly be at the end of this journey of ripping through all this stuff. And she gets to the end and she finds out she has tickets to see Taylor Swift on tour, on the Red Tour, in a few months here in Vancouver. And I will never forget her shouts of glee and excitement and exuberance at receiving this gift, this wonderful gift. And it was in that moment that I really became a fan of Taylor Swift, where I saw the power that this woman had to impact people positively through the experience of her music, of her lyrics, where she was able to empower people to explore feelings and their experiences, and I think really connect with people who knew that the songs were being sung to them or about them. And it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So if you want to hear about how that turned out and how I came to get tickets to go see Taylor on the Eras Tour in a couple of months, then stick around and let's get at it. Hi, my name is Kate Madden, and I live on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people that we call Vancouver, British Columbia. I normally make videos for trans women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, really just talking about day-to-day life and ways to build community, confidence, and capacity for trans and non-binary people. And in this video, I just really want to talk about Taylor Swift, the disappointment I see in friends and online from people who are hoping for more. And the place I've gotten to, just in terms of finding peace with disappointment in my life, in relationships, and how I think maybe people can find enjoyment in her music. Someone suggested to me once that you should never meet your heroes. And, at the time I was like, oh, why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't I want to meet so-and-so or such and such? And in this world where we expect celebrities to make statements, we expect influencers to use their platform for one thing or the other. We beg them, look at what Ryan Reynolds gets thrown his way every day. We beg them to support us in some way. It can be a really stark reminder when somebody makes a choice not to say anything. And it can be really alienating and disappointing, especially when the threat is existential. But it's also really important, I think, to understand parasocial relationships and how, I don't want to use the word fraudulent, but superficial those ideas can be. What you thought of someone is based off this curated information that was carefully chosen to be put on this feed so that you would see it. Or these Easter eggs were dropped here, there, and everywhere. And it creates a sense of intimacy. It creates an attachment. And I would suggest, there's some sort of identity that also, you can latch onto. It's almost like an us versus them thing. And I imagine, somebody studying anthropology, they might have bigger insights into that. But the tribalism of us versus them, or us and them, I don't know. But you shouldn't meet your heroes, because I think ultimately they're going to let you down. When I look at Taylor Swift's discography, going all the way back to 2006, 2007, whenever that first album came out. She was being played, and I had a daughter who kind of graduated from Dora around this time into Taylor Swift. With very little gap between the two of them. So it was playing in the car, it was playing in the house. I heard it all the time. And I never disliked any of it, really. Like, it's well written, well produced, all the things I want to hear in any album, it was there. And she was working with some really great songwriters, like Dan Wilson from Semisonic, and I had his first 2 albums, only 2 albums maybe, but anyways, like she was working with like a really great team. And when 1989 came out, like, that was massive, and I can't think of really any album until Midnight's that just kind of blew up in the way that one did, of any artist. And by that time, I'd had a couple more daughters, I had other children, and it was really fun to dance with them when Shake It Off, when that video was released, and it was just so catchy, so well done. It was fun, and it was a really great memory to have with my children. Around this time, I was also introduced to the band in 1975, and really just one track from there. Like, I'd listened to the whole album, but it didn't enter the regular rotation, but I did like Someone Else, and for reasons it was shared with me by somebody, and for reasons I liked it. Like, I didn't even know Matty Healy's name until like a few weeks ago, probably the same time you knew his name. I knew the band to the point that I was going to Toronto around the time that they were playing there, and I was trying to arrange my business trip there to go see them. I was like, oh, well, they're in town, maybe that'd be a good show to go see. Like, I was a casual fan, but interested enough to maybe go see them if it was aligned that one night. But I didn't. And so I kind of, and just looking back over that period of my life, the late 2000s, early mid 2010s, I really just see a lot of Taylor Swift as the soundtrack to that, and I see a lot of that music introducing a lot of positivity into my world, into my family life, and creating a lot of really fantastic memories for everyone. In late 2017, though, I had gotten to a point where my gender dysphoria was too much, and gender identity was something that I had really struggled with. The acceptance of it, coming out of a religious background, conservative background, it was something that had always really troubled me. It had been the source of tension in all of my romantic relationships, from my teenage romances and partners, all the way up into my marriage. It was just something that was there constantly, and I realized that I couldn't keep repressing it. I couldn't not be myself anymore. I had to take the steps to be authentic, to begin my medical transition and social transition from male to female. I took that step knowing it would cost me my marriage, and what I will share is that divorce is horrible. The process is unnecessarily antagonistic. It engenders conflict and fosters a disconnect. I wish there was a better way, and I don't wish that on anyone. But I really like where I got to after it. Like, you come through it, you go through that process, the trauma of it, really, and you learn to walk with it. You learn to walk through it. It's not like you get over it. Like, trauma is trauma, and it's there. But you learn how to rebuild your life, and you learn how to, build new memories. You learn how to re-engage. You learn all these great things, and you get to do a lot of self-reflection and growth. And I really see that as one of the key gifts of divorce. Also a lot of therapy, but that is an entirely different YouTube video. And so, I kind of missed out on Reputation and Lover, and it was there. It was always there. Like, you'd hear it on the sound. You'd hear it on the radio. You would hear it on Spotify. The algorithm would serve stuff up to you. I was listening to a lot of Casey Musgraves around this time, so I think there's some similarities there. And but it was something that, because I had been disconnected from my family, I was seeing my kids every other week. I'd become estranged from my two older children through my own problematic behavior. And I just felt like it was hard to listen to. And so I didn't. And, you would hear it. You'd hear it on the radio, going to the grocery store to go grocery shopping, for example. And I'm grocery shopping, and I don't get to not be me anymore, which is a great thing, but it can also be a hard thing because I am visibly trans. As a queer trans femme, I stick out. So I don't get to take that off. I don't have the privilege of not taking a side, of not speaking out. And I think ultimately, in this age of social media, where we expect these things from people, it is deafening to not hear it from them. At time of recording, kind of mid-May, late May 2023, the Eras Tour has just completed the southern leg through the southeastern United States, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and in a legislative calendar where almost 500 anti-LGBTQ bills were introduced throughout these states, where people are literally being harassed in bathrooms, where you can't even say the word gay in some circumstances. I had a colleague going to Florida last week, and I realized in that moment I can't go. Like, I can't use the bathroom when I get off the airplane. I can't expect safety if I'm in a car accident or I slip and break my leg. The paramedic could refuse to treat me. The doctors, all sorts of legislated discrimination. They canceled the Pride Parade, and instead they have this parade of transphobia. And while it was week by week getting worse and worse, it seemed like the hype around Taylor Swift's tour through these same states was getting bigger and bigger. And she wasn't saying anything. She has a significant population of her fans are queer. And the thing I started reading online, the thing I started hearing from friends, was how abandoned they felt, how she was profiting off them with queer baiting through different queer Easter eggs over the years, and nothing was being said. And so if you just look at Tennessee, where they banned drag queens, in the weeks prior to the Eras Tour, 3 days of the Eras Tour, like Lizzo, J-Lo, other touring acts, they said something from the stage, or they actually brought drag queens onto stage with them. And, I saw last night Harry Styles in Texas. I saw a video of him from the stage talking about the importance of healthcare, reproductive rights, and how everyone was welcome at his concerts and his shows. And then as well last night, because we're 2 days away from Nebraska banning, since Nebraska's banned abortion, access to abortion and gender-affirming care, Lizzo was in Omaha. I'm going to guess Omaha, but she was in Nebraska. And she made a similar statement about the importance of access to healthcare and gender-affirming care, and how her concerts are a place for people to feel welcome. What this wave of anti-queer legislation shows is that there are systemic aspects to discrimination, and the importance of lifting up and protecting marginalized voices within all of our communities. And there is an aspect to white middle-class feminism, or affluent white feminism, that is totally self-serving and ignores the systemic aspects of discrimination or sexism or misogyny or transphobia or homophobia. It ignores racism, it ignores anti-Semitism, and really, it focuses on individual success. It focuses on, not criticizing other successful women. It focuses on a world where really there is no intersectionality involved, or, the overlapping of identities or oppressions, like Kimberly Crenshaw. Kimberly Crenshaw identified and made famous. And there are limitations. There are limitations to this affluent white feminism because it ignores this oppression. It ignores, struggle. It ignores people trying to survive. And I think some of it, at least in a North American context, comes out of that prosperity gospel of evangelical Christianity. In the gospel, John 10:10, "I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." But what about the book of Job, when you're sitting on a pile of shit and you feel like God has abandoned you and your child is dead and the whole world is arrayed against you? What then? And what if the government is trying to do that to you, to take your kids away from you, to separate you from healthcare, needed healthcare, life-saving healthcare? And so Taylor toured through these states with the Eras Tour and said nothing. However, we were introduced to somebody I would be concerned with if my daughter brought home, a very problematic individual, and that is Maddie Healy from the 1975. And I know Taylor has a history at 1975 concerts, and they go back as friends and Jack Antonoff and all that, but that was really the most public thing that came out of that swing of the tour, that leg of the tour, was the public introduction to Maddie Healy. Despite anti-Semitism, misogyny, racism, easily verifiable. Go look it up. You're going to see it. You'll find the podcasts. And it was just really disappointing. And I think it was even more disappointing to see friends and things online from queer people who are just like, this is what we're getting. I've given years of my life to this music, and this is what I'm getting. I really like SNL. I'm a huge fan. I've been watching it since I was a teenager, and I try to watch it with my kids. It's something that I've done since my divorce, something I even did prior with my kids. Once they got to a certain age and could stay up, I would watch SNL with them or watch it the next morning because I couldn't stay up and would record it. And I remember, I think it was a Jason Sudeikis skit of Jesus, and my daughter getting very upset and telling me it was blasphemous and I needed to turn it off. to give you a sense of the religiousness of my household. I had my daughters, my younger daughters. I was with my younger daughters. I was visiting them, and I had them for the weekend that All Too Well, Taylor's version, came out. And she was on SNL that weekend. And I didn't know she was going to be playing a 10-minute version. And it was a really profound moment of self-awareness, self-reflection. I don't know that regret was the word, but I felt that estrangement from my older children, and from my daughter, my older daughter. Because that was a masterpiece that I tore up. And I say it with, kindness today, where there are choices I needed to make, things I needed to do, or felt I had to do, where I didn't feel like I had a lot of options. And in beginning my medical and social transition, I jumped out of the airplane and tried to figure out how to put the parachute on the way down. And in doing so, I hurt people. And so the performance just really resonated with me on a very powerful and emotional level, and I was sobbing with my two younger daughters, watching this, listening to this. I share that to demonstrate, through the course of my family life, through the course of my adult life, this woman's music has had powerful moments of impact in my world and in my life. I've gotten to a point in my life where I think it's really important to choose happiness over struggle, peace over conflict. And we can see from the recent Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney, Bud Light campaign, Dylan Mulvaney's targeting, that still is continuing 49 days later, 50 days later. They're on Friday, almost 2 months of constant threat to Dylan, and just for holding a can of Bud Light. And I posted a video on Instagram about Bud Light, and I got a lot more comments than I normally get, and almost all of them exclusively were hateful. And praxis isn't easy. Action isn't easy. And I think when it's at scale, it's even more difficult. And you've got Taylor Swift, young woman, successful. You've got Taylor Swift, the organization, the enterprise, the brand, the tour, the records, the catalog, all that, so on and so forth. And people's livelihoods are at risk. And I think more than that, people's safety is at risk. And it may have been dangerous. It probably was dangerous to say something. But ultimately, should we be judging somebody who is choosing their own peace, who's making their own way without bowing to other people's expectations, other people's wants? And there are challenges either way, but at the end of the day, she's just a pop singer releasing pop music that's pretty good. Maybe there will be regrets. Maybe there won't be. Sometimes you just don't have any other choice, and you gotta do the thing that's in front of you based on all the available information you have. And it's inevitable that some people will be disappointed. One thing that's given me a tremendous amount of joy So reconnecting to Taylor Swift's music with my younger daughters, but then also experiencing the power of Taylor Swift's music through my friends. I play on a queer, trans, and non-binary soccer team here in Vancouver, in the Metro Women's Soccer League, and I think to a person, they are all Taylor Swift fans, or if they're not, they're very quiet when Taylor Swift is discussed, because she's talked about a lot. She is talked about a lot. In fact, I have one teammate who has a 22-page slide deck about all the reasons why Taylor Swift is gay. Maybe this is news to you, maybe this is a surprise, but there's a whole subsection of Taylor Swift's fandom, predominantly queer women, called gaylors. And the evidence that's been presented to me is awfully compelling, ranging from Carly Kloss to Diana Agron, Zoe Kravitz, all points in between. And the lyrics are pretty gay. There have been times where I'm listening to something, I'm like, I know what that's about. I hear that. As a queer woman, I get it. And prior to joining this team, prior to being exposed to this queer millennial version of Taylor, or experience of Taylor would be better to say, I really had a very limited perspective as a parent, as an older parent, as somebody who had been presenting male for a majority of that time. And this allowed me to see a much different side of, the power of positivity, the power of her music to engage people, to allow them to experience something that she is vocalizing, that common experience, and the knowledge that she is singing to them and about them. And it's really beautiful, and it's a lot of fun to hear the music I've known for a decade, to hear it through totally different ears, to see it as it affects my friends. And I think there's something transformative that can come from having your perspective adjusted, the way you hear things and see things. And, if I'm a gaylor now, then so be it. I'm pretty convinced, but I understand. I understand. But I understand why she wouldn't say anything most recently. And I also understand why a lot of people in the queer community who are fans are so disappointed and hurt by her silence. It's been interesting to see Taylor's evolution from teenage girl into confident, successful woman. The different romantic relationships, the different experiences of that, the things she said, the steps she's taken. And as well, how her music has changed. Now, lyrics have changed to reflect that growing understanding of the complexity of relationships with each other. And, if I was talking to my daughter, if I was giving her advice to help her through this moment of disappointment with Taylor, if you're struggling with that disappointment yourself, I would say, baby girl, you just gotta accept it and let it go. Some things you can't change, and some things are just the way they are. And for some people, I think that might mean letting go of Taylor Swift and all those experiences. And I'm sensing this disappointment building online of people who are really hurt that this is happening, but they're getting Maddie Healy instead, who I believe we've established is very problematic. I'm a big fan of music. I play music, and some musicians are really bad, beyond problematic. And it's not about separating art from artist, or making it okay to support them or anything like that. But in this situation, at least with Taylor Swift's music, especially as she continues to release these Taylor's versions. I don't know if that came out right, but you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just gotta trust the tale and not the teller. And if you like her music, if it gets your toe tapping, if you want to dance, if you want to cry, if you want to hold someone or love someone or be loved, because she's still going to talk about these experiences, sing about them, and she's still going to move you. I think very deeply she's still going to move you. Then if we just trust the tale that she's sharing with us, what she's doing as the teller, really just minding her own business. Maybe it's none of her business, and we can just enjoy the music. She's got catchy tunes, provides really memorable moments for all of us. And at the end of the day, maybe that's all we need. And not some idealized hero who maybe we did meet recently through this whole experience over the last few weeks. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, don't meet your heroes, because you're going to be disappointed. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been a good use of your time. I hope you found value, or you enjoyed what I shared. It's a different video than what I normally make, but if you want to see more content like this, please hit that notification bell, smash that like button, all the things that all the YouTubers say, but for real, let me know you like it. I think what would be really cool is maybe in the comments below, share what your favorite Taylor Swift memory is, your favorite song, why is your favorite song. That'd be really cool to see. And as always, until next time, here's to life.